Keon Rudder, young Grenadian author who has just written the book, The Job Interview Simplified, What to Wear, How to Act, and What to Ask in an Interview. He is a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin, and we'll be talking about the book. Keon, first of all, you left Grenada when you were 6 years old from the village of Union in St. Andrew before migrating to the U.S. of A. What can you tell me of the memories you have of Union before we start talking about the book?
Absolutely. That was quite a little while ago, but I do remember we had a big field next to my grandmother, Auntie May's place, and we had some goats that I tended to, and we used to go down to the back of her house, walk down a little cliff to a stream, and a couple of friends and I used to play down there. The memories are limited since that was quite a while ago, but I do remember the field, the goats, and that path leading down to the stream.
All right, I hear you. Okay, so let's talk about the book now. That is The Job Interview Simplified. What to wear, how to act, and what to ask. Now, many people might say, well, listen, I've seen many things written about job interviews. I've seen presentations on how to do a job interview. What can you tell me that'll be different? What's different in this book, Keon?
Great question. The market is inundated with interviewing material. You can go online and Google, and you'll find some of the information in there. However, a lot of people don't know what to Google, and they don't know exactly where to find it. It's just so much information. So what I did was I educate the person on everything about an interview, from the resume help to what to wear, how to sit, and questions to ask. So the benefit to the consumer is they have all of that information in one spot, only 100 pages in the book, so it's straight to the point.
And how many pages it took you to do such? How many chapters? And give us a breakdown of the various categories you have in the book, please.
Absolutely. There are six chapters, and each chapter covers something a little bit different, but it flows very succinctly. From preparing for the interview, chapter 1. Chapter 2 is the appearance on what to wear. Chapter 3 covers confidence builders, which is the most important aspect to an interview. Chapter 4 covers controlling the flow of any conversation, and sometimes you'll be asked things that you may not want to give the complete answer to, and you'll learn some techniques on how to change the subject effectively. And then 48 specific questions to ask your interviewer, followed up finally by communication etiquette, following how to send in cards after the interview, what to do, how many times to contact your interviewer, just to show them that you're interested in the job.
But it's not a one-size-fit-all scenario, is it? So each person would have to delve into themselves to really understand the individual personality. And how do they bring that personality to the interview? Because no two persons will be answering the questions that the interviewer asks in the same manner. So how do you convince someone to have that self-belief and self-worth while reading your book to bring their own personality into the interview while keeping the base of the work and the ideas that you put into the book to give them that impetus?
Another excellent question. The key here on what I teach is the groundwork, not necessarily specifics on how to answer each and every question. But the beauty of the book is I teach the cornerstone tasks that people need to know so that when the situation changes, they can adapt quite easily. For instance, changing the flow of a conversation, you don't have specifics and do this every single time. However, I teach different techniques to where a person can practice it on their own before the interview. And when you're presented with situations you may not be comfortable for, it's easy for the person to revert to certain basic tasks that are taught.
And how do they get rid of butterflies? Because every individual has butterflies going into an interview. How, by reading the book, how do they understand to rid themselves of that butterfly, that nervousness? Because it's psychological and it's not easy to teach even by reading a book. So what can they learn from reading as best as they can to overcome that butterfly?
You're filled with great questions tonight. Great question. The biggest thing about getting rid of butterflies is confidence builders that you do before the interview. In situations where you're well prepared, although you may be nervous, your propensity for nervousness will decrease, although it never completely eradicates or get away from you. But the biggest thing is you look back to the book and what's taught on how to sit, where to put your hands. That's the biggest thing, is instead of fumbling around and your hand movements are everywhere, sitting and placing your hands in the appropriate position is number one. Number two, the consumer will be thinking about different techniques that are presented when nervous. For instance, the biggest thing is questions asked and keeping your interviewer talking and speaking and keeping them engaged. You want your interviewer to speak more than the interviewee. So now the consumer is thinking of different questions they can ask, wonderful follow-up questions they can ask, which will then take their mind off of their nervousness and it will take their mind off of their fear.
And what should you wear?
That's a great question. The safest route to go is a business suit. Everyone knows that suit and tie is the safest way to go. For women, pantsuit or skirt suit equally as safe. However, I'm a big advocate of standing out and originality. So that goes back to your personality. If your personality is a little bit more casual, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure to put a sports coat on to look presentable and to appear respectable. But there's no specifics on saying you cannot wear. There are things you cannot and should not. But for the most part, utilize your personality and be you, but just make sure you're wearing a sports coat and that you're looking professional.
Now, most people reading your book, I suppose, you would think that there are people who are going on job interviews for the first time, young people graduating from college, university, and what have you. But you know, the job market that we are in today is that people who have been working for 20, 25 years are now losing their jobs. And they too would have to go on a job interview, something they would not have done for 25 years. Now, how does someone like that prepare for an interview? And by reading your book, how do you think that that person will be energized and be confident to conduct themselves and be really confident that they can land this job after feeling that they are over the hill, so to speak, and by the fact of their age may not be what the interviewer or the company is looking for?
The first and foremost thing is their resume. Most folks, especially when you've accumulated quite a bit of years in the workforce, they have accomplished quite a bit, so they try to pack it all into their resume. So first thing and foremost, your resume is your first deciding factor, and if you get to come in for an interview. So those folks need to understand and learn some tricks, because it's been a while since they've updated their resume. So first and foremost, they need to learn that your resume should never be more than 2 pages. Ideally, it should be 1. And there's a couple more tricks to the resume as well. The second thing about confidence is somebody who's re-entering the workforce after many decades or many years, they have a lot of insight and have a lot to bring to their table. Their experience is the number one thing employers are looking for. So if going back to confidence builders, if they understand that what they have, the knowledge they have is worthwhile, they will walk into the interview knowing that the interviewer wants to hire them. And that's the biggest thing, is walking into an interview with the confidence that your interviewer will hire you on the spot. Again, confidence is key with anything, especially with interviews.
Now, you have written that you have aced many an interview, and you feel on top of the world by landing many jobs because you are successful at the interview. So then, at what point did you tell yourself that I have to write a book about it?
Great question. I'm a big believer in God, and I believe everything happens for a reason. what prompted me to write this book? This was 2.5, 3 years ago, and I went into one of the toughest interviews I've ever went into. It was for a management position, and this gentleman graduated with a MBA. He was very knowledgeable. He's been in the industry for quite some years, and he was asking me the toughest questions I have ever been asked, and some of the answers I gave is actually in the book. Not necessarily referring to that company, but some of the answers I gave were in the book. And after that moment, that's when it hit me, oh my gosh, I am very, very good at this. So I started writing down little techniques on, okay, this is what worked well. More importantly, what specifically made me write this book was there was a young man by the name of James Daly, and he wanted interviewing techniques. He wanted me to give him some tips because he was about to go into his first internship interview. So I started writing down some different things on what he should do, and then it hit me, if this young man has questions and need answers on the interviewing process, and I'm very good at the interview process, how many more people out there have the exact same question? That's when the rubber met the road, and I decided to write my first book on interviewing and put the talents God has given me to use.
Wonderful, wonderful. Keeon Rudder has written the book. It's The Job Interview Simplified, What to Wear, How to Act, and What to Ask For. And how long did it take you to put the book together?
It took me 2.5 years. 1 year I did not do much work on it. This was last year. I hired a literary agent to go out there and get it published by a couple big publishers, and the young woman did not do the job that I needed done, so I went ahead and did it myself this year and got the job done.
And where can we get the book to buy?
Amazon is the #1 spot. Or Google is another great spot. But Amazon.com, type in the book name, The Job Interview Simplified, and you're great to go. Another wonderful way is SpiceIslander.com. The book is on the website, and purchase it is on SpiceIslander.com's website.
Okay. And Keeon, plans for more books in the future?
Absolutely. In 2016, I will come out with the second version to this very book, The Job Interview Simplified, and I will have even more questions. And then in 2016, I want to take my first shot at writing a fiction novel, which I'm excited about.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. That's when you can even paint a more lavish lyrical picture, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Okay, Keeon, thank you so much for being with us on the New York Connection this Saturday morning. It's been a pleasure, and all success in the book.
Thank you kindly. God bless.
Thank you.